today. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Greetings and salutations. Today, we are having a very special episode. We are talking about the LGBTQIA plus community, aka the gays.
The girls are
Do you remember with Rugrats when each episode was like, bye-bye?
The gays. Yeah, I'm excited to talk about this episode. So we'll go and we'll introduce ourselves, and we'll introduce ourselves with our pronouns for this very special episode. And then I'll tell you guys why it's important that we introduce ourselves with our pronouns. So I'll go first. I'm Koren Grace. My pronouns are she, her, hers.
I'll go second.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I'm Samelia, and my pronouns are she, her, hers.
And I'm the infamous Elizabeth, or Bethy, and my pronouns are she, her, hers.
Why pronouns are important for as a cisgender person, because we're all cisgendered here. It's so important that even if we don't have pronouns that would be quote unquote different, it helps normalize trans people's identities. So, excuse me. So Beth would get a lot of people asking, like, why does your sister have her pronouns in her bio if, you know, we already know she's a she. But the gag is you actually don't know that. You know, I could be non-binary. My pronouns could be he, him. So you actually don't know what someone's pronouns are. And so that's why it's important for cisgendered people to help regulate and normalize that you actually don't know what someone's pronouns are. And
Right.
it's okay to ask.
So what do you mean when you say non-binary? What does that mean?
Non-binary is people who don't fit into the gender binary. So lots of things in this world you'll find out are a construct. Race, gender. So gender as a construct. Non-binary people either are gender fluid, so they'll go in between genders. And you'll actually find this a lot in other cultures. Like in Indian cultures, they call them hydras. In indigenous cultures, they call them two spirits. There are people who like it's a celebrated thing.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's like an androgyny kind of thing.
Yeah,
It's close to androgyny, but there are lots of different boxes that you can tick to fall in the line of a hydra. So I
actually just saw a TikTok on that. I just saw a TikTok. It was like random. It popped up on my story because I was watching a lot of tarot, and it was telling me about how like it's like men that have feminine energy, and they have the duality, and so they're actually like really, really, really like they're like not, I don't know what culture it was, but they're actually like worshipped.
Yeah. So it's only in Western cultures that they're demonized, but so there are people who are gender fluid, but then there are people who reject the gender construct altogether.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're not men nor women. So they go to they because it lets you know that they are not subscribing to the construct. They are rejecting this construct. Just a short explanation of a very long, more complex topic.
Yeah.
So today we're going to be talking about LGBTQIA, and we'll talk about a little bit about my coming out. My coming out story is kind of like funny. I don't know how much you guys want to say about I don't want to say affected the family because that sounds negative, but affected the family in a way of just like how it went through our family, because I think it's actually I think some bits of it are pretty funny, and it's my own personal experience, and that's what you're listening to, my personal experience.
They're also not a part of our family, so like they have to understand, like if they were in our family, it's funny because it's like it all came full circle, and like now everybody's just chill.
Yeah, which I had a feeling we would get there, but mostly because I did not give a crap what anybody thought.
She didn't give a single fuck.
Not a single one. I'm like, listen, I can't hide who I am forever.
Right.
My coming out, I struggled a lot with my coming out. I grew up in the Catholic Church. So growing up where like you're basically going to hell, like if you blink at the wrong way, in a religion like that, it was really scary. So I had a lot of I hated myself for a while. I had a lot of inner turmoil that just it wasn't good for me. But when I first came out, came out, because like, what's coming out, right? Like, let's get into it. Why do I have to come out? Y'all don't gotta come out. The first person I told was Samelia, and in my family.
You know, it's really funny because you were the first person she told about other stuff too. So,
well, that's maybe you should learn how to create space for me, Elizabeth.
I think, no, okay, let me just interject really quickly. The reason why, I think it's for two very different reasons. In my situation, I was trying to protect you. Because I'm like, if my sister knows what's happening before I'm like, okay, it's not going to be okay. Like, she's going to get in the car and it's going to be a whole thing.
Also, Beth, we were not on good terms when I came out. Like, this is the part of your life where you were not eating. And every single time you would call me, you would, if I didn't agree with what you said, you would cuss me out and hang up the phone. So
sorry, yeah, that wasn't me. That was a Gemini. That was a Gemini rising.
So yeah, girl, I love you, but it wasn't the move at the time. So the first person I came out to was Samelia, and I remember I was in the girls' room that I was like, the reason why I was like kind of coming out. And I was helping her move out of her dorm. And I remember I was like, yeah. And I started telling Samelia, because I think the reason why I was like, I really just didn't care at that point was like, I needed to confide in someone because I was actually dealing with a lot of emotional abuse at the hands of that girl. And I was letting it go. I wasn't talking to anyone because I couldn't talk to the people at school because they all knew, like all my friends knew her. And I didn't feel safe telling other people. So me and Samelia were talking a lot at the time. It was really, this is how we were talking. Somebody would call me and be like, Koren, should I have Wendy's or Chick-fil-A for lunch? And I would say, Chick-fil-A, Samelia. She goes, I think I'm going to go to Wendy's.
That was Chipotle.
Okay, excuse me. But I was like every day. And it was like, I'm not, at one point I was like, I'm not even going to answer you anymore because I'm actually sick of you calling me to ask me what you should eat to do the opposite. So
multiple meals. It wouldn't just be for one meal. It would be like lunch and dinner. Like,
no, literally. And you would go with the opposite of everything I said. I'm like, you know what?
I just needed a sounding board.
No, you literally did. And I was like, okay, I could be that. I'm on my way to work. I told Samelia about it. Samelia was very supportive of me. Because what I was going through was very, very just like, I was being emotionally like minked up, like mink, like they were minking me up. They were really like putting me through it. And then I came out to my mom the following year when I got in my first relationship. And that conversation was really funny because kind of how like Finn was saying, you guys will hear in the interview with Finn, but when I was like younger, I would ask my mom questions like, what do you think of same-sex marriages? But this is before I knew I was queer, before I knew I was pansexual. I haven't said that yet. I am pansexual. That is my sexual identity. But before I knew I was pansexual, I would ask my mom, like, what do you think? Like, what do you think? How do you think the church recognizes this? You know, just like little questions. And, you know, lucky for me, my mom would always answer like very like, my mom is such a kind human being. I don't think
Mom's got the personality where if it don't affect her, it don't bother her.
Yeah. I was trying to tell people the other day, like, I'm not a bitch. I'm just raised by an Aquarius mom.
Like, she's like, I don't feel anything. Where's the money at?
she's like, okay, so enough about that. How are you gonna get back to work? Like, can I cry
literally
first?
Can I cry first?
Who cares about that, Koren? You're gonna be a superstar. Okay, mom, but I'm hurting.
Literally the
That's
same.
not the shoulder you want to cry on, for real.
No.
That's not the shoulder. But it's a very supportive shoulder. And she would always just like, she would never make comments that were like, ill gays. Yeah. It was always just like, well, you know, the church recognizes that as a union, so they can be unionized. And I'm like, cool. Right. Well, as long as I know, you know what I mean? Like, so, my mom just like, when I officially came out to her, she just asked me why. And I was like, okay, well, why did you fall in love with dad? Honestly?
Wow.
No. Let me tell you something about my mom. She raised me on logic. Like everything I had to do was like, there had to be a logical...
you didn't mean that as like a dig. It was just logic, like you were just reflecting back to her logic. Okay.
Yeah, like why did you fall in, like, you know what I mean? Like, we don't choose who we like fall in love with. You know what I'm saying? So
right.
That was my way of being like, you know, you might not understand it, but I might not understand Dad.
You know what? You know what?
And there are so many times where I'm like, I'm like, okay, maybe this is why. Then sometimes I'm like, no, just kidding, Dad, love you. I'm not trying to go in on it. I'm not trying to go in on nobody. I love my parents.
It doesn't seem that way. Okay.
Listen, I got a Libra father and Aquarius mother. Somebody gonna get their feelings hurt, okay?
Oh.
But after I said that, her next reply to me was, okay, well, practice safe sex because girls can give you diseases too. She's like, that's something that your sister won't listen to me on. I was like, okay.
She wasn't talking about me.
She wasn't. She doesn't
even know my life.
She does. She knows more than you think she might know. I think mom is very, like, she pays attention. And even if she doesn't say anything, she still peeps. Like, she texted us the other day about our podcast, and she was like, girls.
I've listened to every episode.
Hi, mommy.
Hi, mom. Love you.
Mommy.
Love you.
Love you, girl. You're so great.
You are great. But, yeah, so that was my, like, yeah, it's true. She is a genius. That was my process with mom, and then with Beth, it was a little bit different.
Yeah.
Beth just called me, and she was like,
No. Let me tell from my perspective.
Okay.
So, like, y'all, I was ignorant as fuck. Not gonna even hold you. I was real ignorant. I was like, I guess Koren didn't tell me because she said in high school, I do not remember this, but she said in high school, I was like, nobody in my family's gonna be gay.
Yeah, you're like, I don't mind people being gay, but I don't want nobody in my family being gay.
Whole time Koren was like, oh, not gonna tell that. I had no idea, right? So then, like, I got a call, like, just basically like how everything gets back to me is that like the three of them will all know, and then somebody will like let it slip in combo, and I'm like, huh? Like, I didn't get told that. And they're like, well, don't say anything. I didn't tell you. And I'm like, that's fine. So then I'll call the person that I didn't get told because I clearly don't create space for anybody. And I call them, and I'm like, so I said to Car, said, are you gay? And she said, yes. So why
I was at my ex-girlfriend's house at the time.
And I said, why didn't you tell me?
I said, you didn't see me posting with my girlfriend? You're like,
that was your friend.
Yeah, she was like, I thought it was just your friend. I was like, oh, okay. No, that's my girlfriend. I'm at her house right now.
I said, well, how long you guys been dating? And then she tells me, I said, I was really just, I think I was more so hurt that I was the last to know.
You were so shocked. It was like quietness on the phone.
Yeah, because I was like,
well,
has literally been living across from me and hasn't told me that she's gay.
Did you know?
I don't care about your gay. Did you know?
He's that gay.
No, but so it was like at that point, it's like a weird spot for somebody like for my transformation with it, because even though I had said that, I don't think I had actually had someone around me in my personal life like that was gay. Mm-hmm. So when she told me she was gay, it was like it wasn't like a what the fuck are you doing? It was more of like a why am I the last to know?
maybe you should reflect on that.
Yeah. I was so hurt. I was so upset. I was like, wow. Are we even sisters? Wow. What is going on?
Dramatic.
Here? No, so dramatic. No, but I really was. And then after that, it was just kind of like the journey was just me asking her questions and like trying to learn as much as I could. Because I was like, okay. And what happens if I say this?
Yeah.
And so it was like unlearn, like she said, like we went to a really like guys had to marry women.
Yeah.
And like very religious upbringing. That wasn't like I vaguely remember like the two kids when we were young that were gay, and they were like ostracized by not only like students but like the teachers.
Yeah.
Because they were gay, and they were like we were kids. So like imagine like growing up in that environment and like everybody is in this, we're like sheep, and then you have this one lone baby sheep that's like, look, he's black sheep, and he's like, I'm gay, and the church is like,
oh yeah,
we can talk to this kid, but we're really not going to deal with this kid. So like that's what we had be into us, and then so I feel like it was like not something that we were taught in our home. So it was like of the subconscious, like eventually, like, I'm going off church teaching, so I'm not gonna have anyone gay in my family. So then when we get older and I'm not around that anymore, and then Corey's like, I'm gay. I'm like, well, why am I the last to know?
Yeah, I think that for me, a lot of growing up being a pansexual person was trying to figure out how spirituality and God was still going to fit into my life as a queer person. Yeah. Because like I was taught that like it's either God or gay. It's either or. And if you choose to be gay, you're rejecting God. And then it's so confusing.
Miss Hughes used to be like, "You're going to hell."
No, yeah, like straight up. So like, when you're talking about how like they're really being it into us, like men had to marry women, like women wouldn't even know how, like they couldn't point to a uterus dialogue and tell you what their uterus is, because we were taught that's not even something that you need to pay attention to. Like right. you're strictly here to marry a man and have babies. That's your only right. purpose on this earth. My best friend at the time was super, super religious. And we would go to like youth group and hear about how this woman wrote letters to her husband about her virtue. And then we had to do that practice. I still have my letters somewhere. I know they're somewhere, of like writing letters to my future husband about my virtue. Like, yeah. Excuse me? What is this? Like 1700? Am I on
No,
a
like
farm?
that's serious. No, seriously, they had me so shooketh that like the day I lost my virginity, I will never forget this. Bitch, I cried because I was like, I'm a failure. Jesus hates me.
Yeah. Something, and like even the concept of virginity, like it's not something you lose. Like you gave your body to someone because you wanted to. And I just think that
I put it on and make the one on my arm.
Anyway, I think that the idea of sex, like your body is a temple, right? Like that's the one thing I think that we should take away from, religion, is like your body is a temple, right? But what that means isn't guard your body from everything what that means is they're going to listen to you, not like somebody who's going to take advantage of your body. That to me is what your body as a temple really means, is to give your body to people who will respect it.
Yeah. And it's bigger than that, right? Because your mind, it's like your mind, body, soul, spirit. Like it's all of those. It's like, it's not just about what you do to your physical body. It's about what you expose your soul to, the types of things that you watch, right? Yeah. Like your diet is so much more than what you eat. And it's about your looking at yourself as a holistic being. And that really, when it comes to your body, that's just the temple or the spirit that lives within inside of you.
The vessel.
So, the best. Yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, for me, my perspective on you coming out is that you're my sister and I love you. And like, period.
Yeah. Well, that's why I feel like that's what I was saying. Like when she finally like said something, when I asked her and I called her and I asked, to me, it was like, it didn't even matter what her answer was. Cause it was like, at the end of the day, it's like, that's my blood. That's my sister. Like we gonna ride to the dawn. I don't care what you are. Gang.
Yeah. No, I don't care what you are.
She means who you love. That's
No, I mean what I said. I don't care what you are. I don't care what, like, you know what I mean? If today you were like, I want to do this. I feel like I'm this. I'm like, I really don't care, because at the end of the day, you're like my homie.
Yeah, and I also feel like it shouldn't matter, right? Like, I feel like it only matters to people who like low key need to talk to Freud. You know what I'm saying? Like, do you want to F your kid? Because why does your kid's sexuality matter? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Like, I think a lot of people look at their children, as an extension of them, right? And so if you don't spend the time developing who you are, and when you have a child, you just kind of live vicariously. You take all of your hopes and dreams, you put them into this child because you didn't give yourself the time or space or permission to kind of fully realize who you were as a human. Mm-hmm. So now you have this child and you're like, okay, well, I don't have time for me, which is not true. But I don't have time for me anymore. So I'm going to just focus on my child. And so now your children are not yours to have forever. They're given to you. They're gifted to you because there's something within you that God wants you to deposit in them, right? He wants you to teach him of his ways. If you're a believer, he wants you to teach him his ways, teach him right from wrong, and then help them grow up in the faith, understanding where their true health comes from, but understanding also that God created them from a purpose that is likely separate from your purpose. Yeah. And so it really has a lot to do with how you raise them, but it's like, my child is not my property. My child is a person who I've been given as a gift. Mm-hmm. And I get to be this influential person in his life for, actually a very short period of time, because once he turns 18, he's, and as he gets older, he's going to start having more influences. And so I just don't think I think sometimes when parents get too invested in every minute detail of what their child is doing, and, when they're an adult, who they're spending time with and who they love, and, how they express themselves, what job they do. It's like, well, I think if you think they're going down the wrong path, by all means, you should say something. But also, like, their life isn't your life.
Right.
And so, get busy living your own life and be supportive to your child, but they have to live their own life. They have to make their own decisions.
We love having a parent in the group because I was going to run with child. But what you said was just so beautiful and profound, honestly, Selena. Like, you just have given me a new understanding of, like, people and the way they, like, surround themselves in their children's lives. So I
feel really bad for when I have kids, because it's really on some, like, if I'm having them, it's not because I want them to be an extension of me. It's like, you're here because your dad wanted you here. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, maybe you should think twice then.
Like, I'm busy. Can you watch them? Because I would like to go out with my friends. Okay.
Oh no.
I'm gonna take the Kim approach. Why is your voice changing? My kids are gonna be like, North. I'm gonna tell all my business. Literally hides in the bathroom to do makeup tutorials, like me.
Okay, so today we are having our first ever special guest on the podcast.
We love a special guest.
Ow!
I'm so excited. So a couple weeks ago, I was on Finn's podcast, Make My Gay, which I'll let them tell you all about their podcast.
It was such a good episode. Oh my goodness. I love hearing Koren speak. She's such a good interviewee.
Aw, thank you.
You're welcome.
It's because, I have yet to be interviewed. No, I'm just kidding.
Anyway, so I was on Finnley's podcast a couple weeks ago, and I actually found them through a very funny way. I was looking up the hashtag U-Haul on Instagram, and I was like looking at all the cute happy couples. They actually I saw their Instagram. They had hashtag U-Haul for I can't remember why, but I saw that they were interviewing people for their podcast. Oh, Finn just joined. Hello, Finn.
Hi, Finn.
Hi. I was on the U-Haul hashtag because I was U-Hauling. That's why.
Hold on. So Corey and Finn, you guys will have to explain U-Hauling terminology.
Oh, I was looking through the hashtag, and Finn was there with their lovely partner in the hashtag, and I saw that they were looking for people to interview, and I like talking, so I was like, interview me. I think I'm special. And so that's how we met, and we've just been hitting it off ever since, and so I'm really excited to have them on for this episode because I think that they're fun, and they offer such a different perspective from me, and they're cool. So Finnley, without further ado.
Oh my gosh, now that you've given me an ego here. First of all, you are special.
Let her know, Finn. Let her know.
And that's also why I have a podcast, because I was like, I like to talk.
Yeah.
So thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here because this is my first podcast that I've ever done where I'm not the one interviewing people. So it's exciting for me as well. Yeah. So my name is Finn or Finnley. My pronouns are they, them. I'm a host of a podcast called Make My Gay. And we have a little small business by the same name with my partner, Katie, who I U-Hauled with, and that's how I ended up on the U-Haul hashtag.
And that's why we're here today.
Yes, like all of the wonderful queer love and friendship stories we met on the internet.
Yeah, no, it's so true. That's how the gays do it. Okay, so we'll explain U-Hauling. Then did you want to explain you? I'll let you explain since you're the special guest.
Yeah, so I've actually had to do this with my therapist once. I was seeing a very straight therapist, and she had no idea what U-Hauling meant. And so I told her, and so what U-Hauling is in the lesbian or queer community, typically, I'm not gonna, because I can't speak for everybody, and two, it's an individual experience, but our relationships tend to be more intense more quickly, and I read a really good explanation of this one time. It's the person was saying that basically when you are queer and you're growing up queer, a lot of times, a lot of your queerness is repressed, right? And you spend all of this time like trying to squeeze yourself into this box that maybe you didn't fit in. And so you had these maybe mediocre relationships with people you didn't really want to date, or you didn't really date much at all because you weren't finding connections that were fulfilling to you as a person. So once you meet somebody that's also queer, and those relationships tend to be really intense and move really quickly because you're like, oh, finally, so this is what it's supposed to feel like.
Yeah.
So U-hauling is literally the act of renting the U-Haul to move in together. But it can be implied as also moving very quickly in a relationship emotionally.
Yeah.
So, and then, so I told my therapist this, and then like every time, because the term U-hauling, I guess, originates from this joke, or the joke follows this whole process of like, what does a lesbian bring to the second date? And it's a U-Haul.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. You just connected so many dots for me. I'm like, I never understood. Like, I just thought, yeah, it's a U-Haul. Like, they're singing in a U-Haul. I didn't really know.
Right. No, when Koren told me that, I was literally like, seriously, Koren? He was like, yeah. I'm like, that is. But I mean, I guess it like takes power back in the joke, like being the punching bag, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, we are U-hauling. Check out our U-Haul.
Which is funny because I didn't even get a name brand U-Haul because I'm moving in the budget. So we just had a plain box truck that somebody was able to borrow from work, like one of our friends. So the picture that I posted is just this plain white box truck, and I used the little highlighter tool in my photo editing app, and I just wrote like U-Haul in bright orange.
Why did I not notice that? I didn't even notice it.
How are they gonna know? Nobody's gonna know.
Nobody's gonna know.
That's so funny. You're like, listen, I cannot do the queers a disservice by not having a U-Haul.
Right.
A U-Haul has to go in here.
As a queer person, we are constantly makeshifting and improvising our way through life. U-Haul and
retweet.
Retweet. That needs to be the quote.
So I would love for you to tell us more about your business with Katie. I know you guys do screen printing on shirts, and I would also love to hear about how that ties into your queer identity.
Yeah. So it's actually not screen printing, it's block printing, which is, I call it screen printing all the time too, because that's just the more familiar term, I guess, and always is the first one that comes to mind. But it's block printing. So it's, we get these rubber stamp materials, and Katie, who's an artist, actually carves the design into this stamp, and then we put ink on it and we stick the stamp onto the shirt. So it's kind of cool because it provides this kind of like vintagey, a little bit worn out look, and no two shirts are alike. So each shirt is going to be different just based on like how the stamp lays down, or, you know, how much ink happens to be on it, like depending on how hard you press down on it. And how it started, it's very weird because it's like kind of like this relationship. It just kind of fell into place. So when we met, I was already doing my podcast, and Katie was obviously already doing art. And she used to have a block printing business that she had on Etsy a while ago, but she got kind of burnt out doing it because it's a lot of work for one person, because she was she's making the designs. She's carving the design into the stamp, because you have to draw the design first. You print it out, you carve it onto the stamp, you carve the design into, you draw the design on the stamp, like you trace it from the printout. You carve it onto the stamp, then you have to do the ink, you have to print the shirts, they have to sit for a while, then you have to pack the orders, you have to ship them off. So she was taking
a lot.
Break. It's a lot. And I was like, hey, why don't we like revamp your business but make it gay? So that's kind of what we
would make it, add a little spice.
You know, so that's kind of really how it happened. We talked a little bit about it, and then we were just like, you know, let's do it, and let's drop our first designs in June for Pride Month. And we wanted to do something that's fun. Because there's a lot of like a pride merch out there that's just not good. It's clearly not made by queer
people.
It's just got a bunch of rainbows on it, and it's like
it's so tacky.
They're so corny sometimes, right?
Have you guys seen that post that it's like, we see you, and then it was like, Democrats, we see you with a gay pride flag.
Hashtag BLM.
Right.
Hashtag pride.
Yeah. So a lot of the merch out there is kind of like, not everybody wants just a generic corny like rainbow flag love is love shirt.
Right. It's like very uninspired.
Right.
We need pussy stunting like pose on
Right. Right. So, and like,
watch us pose one time.
Look, that's a good idea, though. I might have
No,
to.
it is a good idea.
Listen, me and Corey have had this talk too, because she was like, I hate this store, Torrid. Like, nobody wants to wear a big, bright fucking sunflower daisy on their shirt. I want sexy shit too.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And
so it's like that.
Yeah. So we were like, you know, like many queer people in quarantine turned to TikTok and found gay TikTok. So the first shirt was actually born out of that, because there's a video out there that uses the sound that's like, here we go, lesbians, here we go. And it's
I love
from Billy Eichner,
yeah,
on the street. And so I was like, why don't we make a stamp that says, here we go, lesbians, with the U-Haul?
That's hilarious.
That's brilliant.
So that's kind of where it started from. And something that was important for both of us is to make it, now that you brought up like Torrid and being plus size, is making it size inclusive and not charging extra for it. So our shirts will go up to, I think it's 5XL. And we do not charge any extra, because it's ridiculous. The companies that have like billions of dollars to produce clothes do, because we order things. So we also make the shirts to order. So that helps us, because we don't have to buy a bunch of shirts in inventory and then like hope people pick the colors that we have to print their shirts on. So when you order a shirt, you get to pick your color, you get to pick your stamp color, obviously which stamp you want. And I think we have like 6 designs at this point. I don't know. I should know this, but I don't. There are several designs you can choose from. And it's mostly queer related, but not all of it. We have just a couple of fun shirts. There's one that says baby with a little dagger on it. One is an alligator.
And it says some of my favorite people are queer. I love that one.
Yes. And then we have one that says wasting time on the internet, and it's like this old school Mac with a MySpace like top 8 image on it. So it's, you know, it's queer leaning, but it's also just like fun pop culture, kind of like internet culture leaning. And so when we order the shirts wholesale, like it's a minuscule difference for us to get the plus sizes. Like it doesn't cost us an arm and a leg. So I was like, I don't understand why companies are charging so much extra for plus sizes, because it's not that much more expensive to get.
No, and I have a problem with that too, because I don't know if you guys have ever, I actually like that you're saying this, because I'm really into fashion and things. And there was like a huge debacle at one point online where companies would literally put out petites, and the design would look one way, and then for the plus size it would be completely different. Same dress, but just like it would be like a smock, and I'd be like, girl.
Yeah, because I feel like the biggest issue there is like you don't need to be dressing for your size. You need to be dressing for your body type. So they will put out, like, they're not putting out designs for all types of bodies. So not all bodies are going to be big chest, big hips, small waist. Some bodies are going to be small chest, big hips, big waist.
And that's true regardless of what size you are. You can be a size 2, you know, triangle shape, inverted triangle shape, or a size 12 inverted triangle shape. But if you treat all size 12s or 14 or 16s as if they're all they're all apple shaped, it's like, well, that's not actually how it is.
Right. They are basically telling us they all want us to be like slender, straight up and down slender, and that's what they're going to cater to. And if you don't like that, then like, I guess don't shop there. It's like, fine, I won't. I will take my money.
Fine.
I'll go make my own clothes.
Exactly.
And like even the quote unquote inclusive brands, like now they've started putting like bigger people in advertisements, which is great. Okay, we're starting to move in the right direction. But then it's like the people are all like, okay, so they still have big boobs, a smaller waist, and big hips. So it's that like quote unquote desired, like it has to be a certain kind of fat. And I'm like, that's not how people work in real life, and that's like you're setting unhealthy expectations for people. Like,
there was a model that Corey had shown me.
Yeah, we talked about it the other day.
Yeah, there was a model that Koren like she really liked. And I was like, I'm not feeling her. And then she showed me this other girl, and I said, well, this seems more like a plus size person than this other girl that they've got modeling, because I wouldn't even like blink twice at the girl that they have chosen. But this other girl to me looks, even though, because she's not the ideal plus size person, like she has more of a gut in the front and bigger boobs. Yeah. To me though, she filled out the clothes and was a better representation of somebody who's like, I have a flat stomach, but I've got big hips.
It's the gut. I think
yes. Like, can we get some gut?
Can we get some gut? I love guts. I'm
bad. Elizabeth.
I'm sorry. I got a little overhyped.
Oh, look, but like my partner, you know, that's a part of my body that I'm self-conscious about, and I'm working on unlearning a lot of like fat phobia and just what society, the bullshit that society like puts on us all the time. And she's like, I love your belly though. It's soft, like it's comfortable to snuggle on. Like, thank you. I also serve as a pillow. It's great.
I was reading your bio before you got on, and I said I'm going to introduce them as their bio. The emotional support zaddy.
That is me. So I'm a triple water sign. So I'm a Pisces sun and rising and Cancer moon, and I have a lot of feelings all the time.
Did you even go here? Can we Photoshop Finn's face on the girl from Mean Girls?
She's like, I have a lot of feelings.
Yes. I just want to bake a cake with rainbows, and we can all eat it and cry about it and process our emotions.
Wait, Finn, stop. Why is that you, though? Stop.
Because that came from one of my friends, too. She actually, like, coined that term, and I loved it so much. I was like, I'm going to throw that up there because that's, like, the best descriptor of me that I've heard in a really long time.
It's so true.
I've spent a lot of time in therapy. Like, again, I think the universal queer experience is that we're all not okay in some way.
That's the straight experience too. I don't think any of us are okay.
None of us are okay right now. And like, especially after 4 years of Trump. So I've spent a lot of time getting like in touch with my feelings, working through them. As a result, I'm very comfortable with other people's emotions. And I think that's something also as a society that's kind of like weird, even though it shouldn't be. We tend to want to tell people to just like suck it up and deal with it. And there's a lot of this like good vibes only culture. And I'm like, no, you know what? You can bring whatever vibes you want to bring here. It's a safe space. Amen. Like we can cry about it if we want to. We can like throw some shit in a safe and contained way if you want to. Like we can, you know, we can deal with it. And like it's okay if you're not okay, and it's okay if you're feeling some type of way, like come to mama's armpit, come lay on my gut pillow.
That's so funny. Honestly, like I think that's so important what you just said of just kind of like coming as you are to people, because I really do think that something that I learned and unlearned this year was I've been unlearning a lot of stuff, very overwhelmed, by the way. But something that I unlearned was toxic positivity, and how I don't always have to show up as if I'm so happy, because it's just not the reality of the situation.
And I sure came in this chat.
Are you done, Elizabeth?
I don't know. She was nice to me.
Yeah, that's because you were nice to me, Samilia. Elizabeth, work on it. Work on it, Elizabeth. Anyway,
all I said was it's about time.
I'm about to send you guys this funny TikTok of the families are like yelling, and I'm like, I feel like that's what Finn is going through right now. They're just sitting there, just trying to enjoy the podcast, and we're like yelling at each other.
I'm here for it. Look, I did not grow up with siblings, and sibling relationships are always so interesting to me. Like, I'd go over to my friends' houses and just watch them interact with their siblings, and it brought me a lot of joy. It's kind of like how I feel about kids now. Like, I don't really want them, but I love to be able to experience that and then give them back. So I would like experience all their drama and like, you know, the shit siblings do, and then I could go home and not have to deal with them like punching their sister in the boob, you know, like like my boobs never got punched, but I still got to be part of the drama.
Girl, consider yourself lucky.
Let's just move right along before we get too deep.
So wait, I agree. I do want to kind of skirt to the topic of family, if you're okay with it, Finn. Yeah. Obviously we don't have to, but how you're saying you grew up as an only child, I'm assuming. And yes. I kind of wanted to touch on chosen family, because that's something that we have a lot in the queer community, is your chosen family.
Yeah.
And so I would love to hear your thoughts about chosen families and your experience with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I grew up as an only child. I'm a child. So we actually immigrated to the United States when I was 9. So I have always had kind of a tense relationship with my family of origin, as we call it, as to differentiate from chosen family. Because unfortunately for a lot of us in the queer community, people's families of origin are not always accepting. And I grew up very closeted because I heard my parents just, say some homophobic things, or when stuff was in the news about like marriage equality, they had something to say about that. And this was before I even realized that I was queer.
Yeah.
And just hearing the way they talked about it, I'm like, okay, it's funny. I like didn't realize I was queer, but I would get very passionate about queer rights. And I was like, quote unquote, a super ally. And I would just like cry when they would say something that sounded hateful. And I was like, you don't understand. Like, I have gay friends and they're great. And then it's turned into like, I'm gay and I'm great. So like, if you can't appreciate that, then it is what it is. So I did not come out to my family until really a couple of years ago. I think I was 29. I'm 31 now. And then my parents did end up having another child. So when I was 20, so I have a little sister. She's little. She's only 11 now. So it's a weird experience. My life has been a weird experience all around.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, we just had like a really big falling out, and it was not entirely about me coming out or being gay. I think we just have a very different set of values now, because they're pretty conservative, and we would have a lot of disagreements about like the Black Lives Matter movement, and me trying to kind of open their minds up and educate them was not really working. So I got to the point where I was like, and I don't know if I read this on like one of the therapist Instagram pages I follow, or if it was actually in a therapy session, that I think it was in oh, I know what it was. It was this book. And I highly recommend it to anybody. It really helped heal a lot of my like, mommy and daddy issues, for lack of a better word. It's called Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. And in that book, it asked, as an adult, would you hang out with your parents? Like if they were not your parents, because at this point you're an adult and you're kind of on like even playing ground, right?
Right.
So it's like, as an adult to adult, would you have a friendship with this person? Do you have shared values? Do you have stuff in common? And it was like, you know what? I really don't. And unfortunately, we just cannot interact in a healthy way. But before we even really stopped having much of a connection, if any at all, I've never really felt close to my parents. I've never felt like I could be myself at home. So it was always very weird and very tense for me. And family is great. And it took me a while to form it. I think sometimes when we see queer relationships of like familial sorts and friendships, it just seems like you just come out and then there's just like this big gay community to absorb you, and it's like
blame it on the L word.
But no, right? So it takes a lot of trial and error, because I think one of the things I came in also like attitude of, well, if you're in the LGBTQIA community, you're somehow like more enlightened and better, because like we know what it's like to be oppressed, right? So we would like think that we would not be toxic to each other, but that's unfortunately not the case, as I've learned. Because
no, I've seen some pretty toxic stuff, and I was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
And it almost gives me, I don't mean to cut you off, it almost gives me the vibes of like in the Black community with colorism, because we struggle with colorism in this community. So sometimes I'm like, girl, I'm Black, you're Black, like why are you?
We also struggle with homophobia in the community.
No, but I mean, like that shouldn't be the case, and unfortunately, like we're not always a safe and inclusive space either, and there is a lot of like gatekeeping and policing in our own community, which is a little bit ridiculous. But I mean, that's what happens when you have a lot of trauma generally in a community. Everybody's working through their shit now. I was to really find my people. But once I did, it was just, there's no other feeling than being able, that feels as good as being able to show up in a space as just completely yourself. and have people there welcome you. And I don't have to hide parts of myself. I don't have to pretend like I'm somebody else. I don't have to be on guard all the time. And, you know, we have a lot of fun together with my friends, but they've also seen me through some really like intense and heavy shit. Like, and one of my best friends is actually straight, but she's been with me through like all of it. I mean, like abusive relationships, the fallout with my family, and, you know, it's like the people that stick by you through the good shit and the bullshit, because it's easy, right? It's easy to be like friends with somebody or supportive of somebody when things are going great, right? Mm-hmm. And it's really when shit hits the fan that you find out who your people are. Yeah. So chosen family for me, more so than blood family, really, because they know who I am, like inside out. They know all of these parts of me that I don't feel like I have to hide. Like I don't have to hide my trauma. I don't have to hide my depression, right? Like we were talking about good vibes only earlier. And I'm like, I can show up, or, you know, I can even not show up. I can be like, hey, thanks for inviting me to this thing, but I'm depressed. I'm going to hang out on my couch with my cats.
Yeah.
And they're going to be cool about it. And they'll like bring me food afterwards, you know? So that's something that's really special and rare. And I think it's, there's something to be said about choosing the people you surround yourself with, like based on your values and what you value in life, and having them be reflected back to you. And the people who kind of help you grow lovingly call you out in your bullshit, because they want to see better for you. But that are still going to show up for you and support you no matter what.
Yeah, I love that. I think the special thing about chosen families is like everyone is there because like everyone they want to be there, and they're passionate about being there. Whereas like people who you're kind of born into are like, well, this is my
watch yourself, girl.
I'm not talking about you, bestie. I'm not talking about you. Relax. I'm talking about you.
Narrative though, too, that's really hard now that I'm like more or less like estranged from my family, of like, well, that's your blood, and you know, blood is thicker than water. And
don't agree with we don't agree.
It's
we
like,
don't subscribe to that. We don't subscribe to that.
We're quick. Our family is very, very close. Don't get us wrong, but we are quick to like, if we have to step away from someone to like let them know, like, I'm not going to tolerate this and you're not going to talk to me, we're quick to do it.
I mean, because I think though that narrative of like, well, blood is thicker than water, and we have to like respect our elders, and we are, you know, you should be grateful to your parents because they gave you this life. And yes, I am. I'm very grateful and thankful for the opportunities I was able to have because they work hard. And so this like duality of living this and this that I'm learning in therapy, like, and I can choose to set boundaries that protect my mental health and well-being. Right. And just because your family doesn't mean you can be toxic to me.
Right.
Absolutely.
So yeah, and chosen family, you're 100% right. You know, it does work the same way. I think with my chosen family, we're all kind of in an understanding that if one of us is doing something that's harmful to the other or to the group, we're going to have a conversation about it and build a bridge. But sometimes it's hard to build a bridge when, you know, you're the only one like
trying to build
a bridge. The bridge just ends halfway, like, and then the other side just doesn't happen. So
Finn, the next time somebody tells you that blood is thicker than water, say, well, it ain't thicker than oil, and if you over here acting greasy, bitch, we can go over.
Yes. Oh my God, I love this. I just need all three of you to come with me at all times. Tell people off.
Yeah. No, I'm quick with it.
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing, I think, is just boundaries and honoring your own boundaries. That's something I definitely learned this like past year. And I think what you said about like when you're chosen family, if someone's doing something that's detrimental, the fact that there is a space for you to feel comfortable to talk about what it is that's bothering you is everything. Right. Because if there is no space for you to talk about it, you're not going to want to enter into a space where, you know, you're going to leave like absolutely mentally beat up.
Right.
So I just think that's beautiful that you found your chosen family and you guys all respect each other. And that's all we all want out of life, right? Is like a community, a group of support that's going to protect us and be behind us when we need someone when we want to pull up.
So Finn, with being where you are today, how has like kind of being estranged from your family shaped your journey with coming out and being vocal and being just kind of like I say flamboyantly you, just like being you to the fullest. Like,
Yeah.
how has that shaped you?
I think it honestly helped. So before we really like started having less and less contact, my family moved away. So they used to live pretty close to me, like within half an hour. And I honestly, when they moved, and this was before our relationship went way south, I was like, I feel like I can finally breathe. Like, I don't have to constantly look over my shoulder of like, if I'm walking down the street holding hands with somebody who appears to be the same gender as me, like, is somebody going to tell my parents? Am I going to get in trouble? Are they going to see me? Like this like narrative that was constantly running through my head. It's kind of stopped, and I felt like I could be myself most places where I went. And setting those boundaries and kind of standing up for myself has helped me in my professional life. Because, spoiler alert, as a triple water sign, who's traumatized, I'm bad at boundaries. So, I think the lessons, I mean, the whole journey really like helped me. You know, I got myself into therapy. I've been working on my shit for like 3 years now. It's exhausting, but totally worth it. And it's really just spilled into other areas in my life where I can take these lessons of like how to communicate, because I was not necessarily modeled healthy communication growing up. So I can take that and kind of transcend that experience and say, you know, I can't change the past. I didn't choose my family of origin or how I grew up, but I can choose how I show up in the world now and how I move forward and how I build my relationships and my connections. So I definitely think that it's given me some freedom. Because immigrant parents are also known for being very hovery and like projecting a lot of like their own hopes and dreams and experiences onto their kids.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, you're preaching to the
choir.
You know what? I really relate to like with the memes that are like Black parents and Black parenting, because I'm like, but same though, like immigrant parents kind of do a lot of the same stuff. So so I think one, it's just getting older, you know. Two, it's like finding my own way in the world, and just the communities I'm part of now, the people I surround myself with, all had a huge impact on me. So I think it's like I'm a little amalgamation of all of it, but I get to decide what parts I keep and choose now and what things I maybe let go of. I get to kind of pick and choose like what I get to hold on to for my past, and like maybe writing new narratives and deciding how I want to show up in the world and how I want to relate to other people.
Yeah.
I think that's a really beautiful opportunity that you're given. I know maybe that's a weird way to look at it, but oftentimes, like, one of the hardest things I know myself that I struggled with was that the idea of who I was supposed to be, because who my parents told me I was supposed to be, who my aunts and uncles, you know, thought of me and who I was and how I was supposed to show up in the world. And so a lot of the work that I've had to do is breaking free of that. And so I think it's almost like an unexpected gift when you're able to like kind of detach yourself from what people thought you should be, and you get to fully be whoever you want. I think that's beautiful, and build a world and support system around that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I love this. This is so good.
This like a mini therapy session right here. Like,
I think that's one of the reasons I really enjoy doing this podcast every week is like I've learned so much about how to be a better person, honestly. Like even down to something as simple as dating apps. I keep using this example because I was using dating apps so wrong. And my sister being like, does it work? Did it work for you? I'm like, no, it wasn't working. You know, I never thought about it that way. Like just a simple question that someone can ask you where you're like, well, I actually haven't thought about that. Like, let me go self-reflect. So that's why I really enjoy it. I'm so happy that we got to have you on, Finn, honestly.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This has been a blast. I'm like so excited.
Such a great. Oh, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Everybody's to interview me right now. You're really good. I'm like, I need more people. Whoever's listening, if you have a podcast, like please invite me to be on your podcast because it's so great to just like talk about myself for however long. I don't know. I do not have any Leo in my chart, but I swear, like somewhere out there, there's
it's the Pisces.
It's the Pisces.
That's the Pisces. Yeah. Pisces and Leo are very, very alike in terms of like the way they love themselves. And we're here for it. We stand.
I'm a Pisces, so
you're a Pisces moon.
I feel you on the sensitivity.
Are you?
Yeah.
I thought you were a Scorpio.
Hell no, girl. I am a Libra sun, Pisces moon, Gemini rising. Crazy town.
Ooh. That Gemini rising, that Pisces moon.
Yeah, she's as crazy as you think she is.
Yeah. I'm like,
Probably
I'm
more.
sad, but I'm gonna laugh because I might kill you. So,
Well, Finn, tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, so you can find me in a lot of places. I'm a social media lurker, and by that I mean mostly Instagram, because that brings me joy. I'm not on Twitter because there's apparently bad news on Twitter, and my anxiety can't handle it. So the Instagram for my podcast and our little gay shirt business is at Make My Gay. So it's like make your day, but you make your gay because the shirts are custom to you. So it's like we're making your day. We're also,
making your gay.
Yeah. And then my personal handle is at Fintastic MX Fox. So that's FINN Tastic MX Fox, like the animal. And then I'm on TikTok as Dripping with Finesse.
Yeah. I'm gonna definitely tag everything, all of your socials, so that people can find you. I just want to thank you again for coming up here and talking to me and my sisters. We really enjoyed having you.
Yes, thanks for having me. I'm glad to come back anytime.
Yay!
Anytime y'all want to talk anything, please, because I'm also secretly petty. I'm not ashamed to admit it. All in like good fun, but
Come sit with us.
I love a good bit.
Somebody said, "Come sit with us."
Yes, I can finally sit with the cool kids.
And if you ever want to come, you just need like a little bit of sister time, enough to let you know that you don't need it.
That's so funny. No, but true.
Y'all will keep me in check. I trust you.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Finn.
Thanks.
Thanks, Finn.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Welcome.
So this segment we're going to talk about is outrage culture. And I recently on Twitter and on social media, because I follow Hollywood Unlocked. I don't know if you follow their Instagram. They actually keep me pretty updated. They're like Shade Room, but less
shady.
Less shady and less like
toxic.
Yeah, they're problematic. Shade Room's kind of problematic, but like
very problematic.
I like them because it keeps me informed because I don't have Twitter. Yeah. So recently, Nikita Dragon, who is like the owner of Nikita Dragon Beauty, she was on Instagram or Twitter, on Instagram. She was posting videos and pictures, and she made a caption where it was like, trans women are the blueprint. Black women learned from us. And social media went crazy on her.
Yeah, they were going really crazy. Like, I don't even follow any of those accounts, but like it was bleeding on to my.
Yeah. It was,
and I don't follow Nikita Dragon because she's a stunt queen with no stunts. She's very problematic, and I don't wish to follow her. So the fact that I was seeing this,
Sweetie like won't even claim that she knows her now because she did something to Sweetie.
I think it's just like disrespect of the Black community that Nikita is like constantly like showing. She shows that she doesn't, like with tweets where she's like, "What ethnicity am I? What race am I gonna be today?" Like. She's not a very nice person. Not
you hating on the Black community, but having a muddy contour.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Can we talk about muddy contours?
Wait, can I tell you about my muddy contour today? Because I was singing on stage and I was in such a rush that I was looking for my bronzer and couldn't find it. And it's in the same shaped like container as my contour. And I almost put contour all over my face. Like,
oh my gosh.
Not you out here doing blackface.
I want to see a picture.
I didn't do it, thankfully, but I almost did.
Not me being like, let me see. I want to see a picture. So this is more in the segment of outrage culture. So we want to just talk about the way that outrage culture has been turned into a marketing scheme that people are doing. I'm calling it a scheme because it's schemy, to get people to pay attention to what they're doing. And I think for me, the deeper issue here is Nikita Dragun not only trying to use Black women, because in my opinion, Beth might not like this, she's using the Kim Kardashian method in the model.
No, I see it.
Kim Kardashian wrote the book, and Nikita's just reading it. But the way she also, so I don't know if anyone else saw this, but she was using the faces of dead trans women. So Marsha P. Johnson, who led the Stonewall riots. Yes. And Sophie, who was a pop singer, who passed away tragically last year. So Nikita's new song is called DICK, and it's giving me Tumblr art in high school, because this is how I did my Tumblr art in high school, where you take a black block and you put it over your face, and then you put a word in the black block. And so she put DICK over her eyes, but then she has a like Renaissance painting of like her boobs and her genitals. So it's like a DICK. It's a penis over top of her private part, and then it's like pecs over top of her boobs. And to prove a point, right? And she's trying to take back the power of people calling her a man. But she used Marsha P. Johnson as well as Sophie and a few other deceased trans women and put dick over their eyes to promote her song. So she doesn't necessarily like, even to get online and say Black women are following trans women, to disrespect Marsha P. Johnson, who is a Black trans woman,
right? To
disrespect her as she threw the first stone in the Stonewall riots, which were riots that were protesting, not even like, it didn't start off as a riot, like they were gay people who were celebrating and the police came in, much like the, silent protest or a silent like celebration, and the police come in and make it a riot. And so she along with like Harvey Milk, very staple human beings in our community who began our movements toward social. It's like
taking Martin Luther King.
Exactly. It's like as if someone were to take Martin Luther King and like put the word thug over his eyes. Like, I get you're trying to take the power back, but this is disrespectful.
Yeah.
And she was also saying like, I'm the first trans pop star, like as if Sophie doesn't exist, as if Kim Petras doesn't exist. Right. And there are so many other, I just follow
that are actually doing shit. Sorry, no offense.
Yeah, who are actually good at what they do. Mickey Blanco is an amazing artist who is also non-binary trans.
I think Nikita should just stick to making makeup that makes people break out. And like,
I think she should just be a socialite. Like, that's what she wants to do. Yeah. But it's hard to be a socialite in 2021, right? Like, even socialites such as the Kardashians, Jenners, are doing things. So Kylie's a socialite. She's famous and rich by just being famous and rich. But she needed a way to be able to sustain her relevancy in today's media. So she created Kylie Lip Kits, Kylie Skin, Kylie baby clothes, all that other stuff. Yeah. And Kim as well, like, Kim is talented, but she has to have a way to sustain relevancy. And so that's going to look like Skims. That's going to look like those contour stick thingies that she was doing, you know, so you have to have a lane. And I think that oftentimes people think that singing is the easiest lane. I listened to like a snippet of the song just because I was seeing a lot of Black women that I follow being so outraged, that I was like, what's going on? So I went to Nikita's page. Like I said, I do not follow her because I don't like stunt queens without the stunts. Right. I think it's very tired. I'm not interested in looking at it. And I listened to a snippet of the song. Subjectively, it's just not good. Right. It's a song. So I just think like, in outrage culture, I think, and I don't know why she singled out Black women, right? Like, that I don't understand.
I don't either.
The way that I would describe it is when makeup companies put out foundation or concealer lines, and they have a whole line, but they only put out the lightest shades first to create this outrage from Black women. Because, like I said, people use Black women to get press in outrage culture.
I'm wondering if some of it has to do with the fact that, like, if you look at, like, Black women tend to ride for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So like if a Black man gets killed, like if you look at the people who are protesting, especially like before protesting became the thing to do,
mm-hmm.
like if you look at the people, there was mainly like Black women out there, right?
Yeah.
And so they were the ones whose voices were being like they came together and made their voices heard in a way. And so you really saw change starting to happen that way, right? Like, and so I wonder if it's the same thing with like buying power, right? Like if you look at the beauty industry and the $1 trillion business that the beauty industry is, if you look at who's spending the majority of the money, like if you look at the subset of the market that has, you know, actually a really strong buying power, it's oftentimes Black women. And so I'm just wondering if it's like, if you can get under the skin of Black women as a group, you know that their voices are going to come together to be heard, because we're like, well, no, we're not taking that, right? Especially now, because we feel empowered to do that. So we're like, we're not taking that, and so we'll speak up. And so it seems like it's almost like a reverse psychology thing, where it's like if you get Black women talking about it, it's actually going to make more movement, right? And so I'm wondering if that's the approach that Nikita Dragun's people is taking.
Not her freaking manipulating us.
No, yeah, it's a manipulation tactic.
1000%. Think about like Honey Pot, right? So like Honey Pot was sold at Target, and it's the creator founder is a Black woman. And then when like I think Target was like for Black History Month one year was talking about like, you know, Black creators and like, you know, holding their products in the store. And so then when like I think the founder said something about like, I want to inspire other Black girls to know that this is possible. And then some white women got upset about it, and then they were like protesting. And so then Black women were like, oh no, you're not about to shut her down, and bought all of her products, sold out every Target. You couldn't find Honey Pot products.
Yeah.
And so it just seems like it's one of those things where even though Nikita won't benefit from it financially, if enough people are outraged about it, she'll use their voices to magnify her name, right, even though it's in a negative way, because, you know, Beth, as you always say, no, like, what is it? No press is bad press.
Yeah.
Like, it's all good in the long run because your name is out there. And so even if it's for infamous reasons. So I wonder if that's what it is.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's exactly what it is.
That's crazy.
It's literally a tactic. Because you know that you can bank on people who's supporting you. If you disrespect people who support you, you can bank on them being upset about it.
Not me taking notes.
Oh my. So Lil Nas X.
Did you see the one with Obama that he just posted?
Yeah, I thought that was funny. He was like, the presidents or something like that.
He said, yeah, he was like, it's me, the real president of the real president, Obama. He goes, I just hear your album.
Yeah, the words are like all spelled wrong. It's amazing. I think Lil Nas, speaking of just like gays who are great at marketing, I think Lil Nas is the winner of the internet. Like, truly, he is so good at the internet.
He's like a professional troll. He really, truly is.
Literally, so good at it.
He posted this picture, you guys. This is why I loved him. I fell in love with him because he posted this picture and it was a Trojan horse. And it was the horse that
said gay agenda on it.
It said Old Town Road. And then when he got it, he jumps out and it was like, surprise.
Gay.
I'm gay.
Yeah, no, that's literally like his acceptance speech at the VMAs. He's like, I just want to say, go gay agenda, it's working. Lil Nas is so good at marketing on the internet, and I think him being like out and being himself 1000. Oh my gosh,
he actually leverages outrage culture, and maybe that's what Nikita Dragun's trying to do.
She's trying to do it, but it's like it's not
given.
Well, okay, no. So here's the difference, I think, between what Nikita's doing and what Lil Nas is doing, right? Lil Nas is not using outrage culture to pinpoint a specific group, right?
True.
He's just being who he is, and people are getting upset with that. Right. Nikita is going out of her way to pinpoint a certain group, Black women, to try to outrage them, and it's giving racism. Yeah. So I think there's a difference. Like, you can't look at Lil Nas and be like, he's heterophobic, because he's not. Like, he's not saying, first of all, no such thing. But like, he's not, well, might, because I'm a little. Anyway.
Hey.
Hey, some of my best friends were straight, okay? But so I think that's the biggest difference is Lil Nas is having fun with what he's doing. He's like
him giving birth to his album. I saw his creative genius. That was him basically trolling the internet because y'all like to tell him he's everything. And then it's like, y'all want to tell him he's everything but himself. And so then when he decided, okay, well now I'm gonna be black, gay, and pregnant.
Yeah. I love that because most people are like, I'm pregnant with my album. Like the only thing, because like when rumors would go around about certain women, they'd be like, yeah, I'm not, the only thing I'm pregnant with is this new album. Like, I haven't listened to Lil Nas's album yet, but I really want to listen to it.
Yeah.
Well, it has been a pleasure talking with you ladies today, and I loved having our guest Finn on here. I'm Bethy.
I am Samelia.
I'm Koren Grace. Follow us on Instagram at It's an Okay Podcast. We put out new episodes every Monday. We'll see you guys next Monday.
Bye.
Bye.